Cromwell. Oliver Cromwell was an English military leader and later Lord Protector. Born into rural nobility, the first 40 years of his life are relatively unknown. After experiencing the religious conversion in the 1630s, Cromwell became an independent Puritan, assuming a generally tolerant position towards the Protestants of his time. The deeply religious man, self-styled as a Puritan Moses, he firmly believed that God was his guide in his victories. Cromwell was elected as a member of Parliament for both Huntingdon and Cambridge in the short and long Parliaments. He participated in the English Civil War on the side of the parliamentarians. Dubbed Ironside, he quickly rose from leading a simple cavalry troop to one of the principal commanders of the new model army, playing a prominent role in defeating royalist forces. He was one of the signatories of King Charles I's death sentence and, as a member of the Rump Parliament, dominated the Commonwealth of England. He was chosen to lead the English campaign in Ireland. His forces defeated the coalition of the Confederates and Royalists, effectively ending the Irish Confederate Wars. During this period, a series of penal laws were enacted against Roman Catholics, and much of their land was confiscated. Cromwell also led a campaign against the Scottish army. He forcibly dissolved the Rump Parliament, establishing a short-lived assembly known as the Barebone Parliament before being invited by his peers to lead as the Lord Protector of England, Wales, Scotland, and Ireland. As a ruler, he pursued a very aggressive and effective foreign policy. Having joined the army with no prior military experience at the age of 43, he recruited a cavalry unit and gained experience and victories in a series of battles in the eastern Anglia region. Promoted to the rank of general in command of the cavalry in the new model army, so called because it was composed of people who strongly believed in their cause, not mercenaries. He trained his men to quickly regroup after an attack, a tactic initially used with great success at the Battle of Nascido. In this way, he eventually replaced the previous army commander. With military success came political power, until he became the political leader of his time. The so-called Second English Civil War, which began in 1648 following King Charles I's escape from prison, convinced Cromwell that a compromise with the king was not possible. Finally, the king was tried, sentenced to death, and executed in January 1649. Cromwell is often attributed with the primary responsibility for the king's condemnation and execution, even though he was tried by Parliament for what remained of it, and there were 59 signatories on the execution warrant. It's noteworthy that this warrant ordered the execution of the King of England, Unlike what would happen in the trial of Louis XVI, the King of France, in 1793. As Cromwell observed at the time, "We will cut off his head with the crown upon it." Cromwell's actions made him highly unpopular in Scotland and Ireland, which, although nominally independent, were effectively dominated by English forces. In particular, the suppression of royalists in Ireland in 1649 is still remembered among the Irish. Some historians considered his measures against Irish Catholics to be genocidal or very close to it. Oliver Cromwell offered Irish Catholics a choice between genocide and forced mass transfer. They could go to hell or to Connaught. The massacres of Protestants by Catholics that occurred during the religious wars of the 1640s were amplified for propaganda purposes to justify the subsequent genocide promoted by Cromwell. They justified the genocidal campaign and colonization by English and Scottish Protestants through the confiscation of land from Irish Catholics by Cromwell, the reduction of the Irish population from 1.5 million or possibly 2 million at the time of the start of the Irish Rebellion of 1641 to no more than 850,000 11 years later represents an absolutely devastating catastrophe. There is no doubt that most of this loss of life occurred not through the direct killing of the population but through famine and later bubonic plague, especially during the outbreak between 1649 and 1652. In Ireland, Cromwell is deeply hated. In Drogheda, after the city's capture, the massacre of 3,500 people, including 2,700 royalist soldiers and all citizens carrying weapons, including civilians, prisoners, and Catholic priests, is a historical memory that has fueled conflicts between Catholics and Protestants and between Irish and English for centuries. Cromwell justified the massacre by claiming that the city's defenders continued to fight, violating the rules of combat, even after the city walls had been breached. Before his death from malaria in 1658, Oliver Cromwell nominated his son, Richard Cromwell, as his successor. However, Richard was ill-suited for the role, and on May 25th, after the Rump Parliament agreed to pay his debts and provide a pension, Cromwell submitted a formal letter resigning from the position of Lord Protector. Richard was never formally deposed or arrested but was allowed to fade away. The Protectorate was treated as having been the mere usurpation from the start. After his death, in 1660, Oliver Cromwell was buried in Westminster Abbey. However, following the restoration of the monarchy's power, his body was removed from its tomb, hung in chains, and decapitated.